When something is aligned, it gives you energy even when it's hard. And when something is not, it drains the hell out of you even when it looks fine on paper. Like on the outside, it looks so fine, but deep inside, it's really, really draining you. When was the last time you did something purely just because it felt aligned? Not because it made sense or someone else has expected it, but it just feels like it's yours. Because I think a lot of us spend so much of our lives just doing things for the sake of doing them. You know, just like going through the motions, not living, and just plainly existing. And I know that there will be some days where life feels like that. But your whole life doesn't have to feel like that. So today we will talk about what it actually means to choose yourself and what changes when you finally do. For me kasi, choosing yourself comes down to one word, which is alignment. And when something is aligned, you just know. You feel like it's supposed to be there, like it just fits. And if you're wondering, how do I actually know if this is aligned? And if it's not, here's the simplest way I can put it. When something is aligned, it gives you energy even when it's hard. And when something is not, it drains the hell out of you even when it looks fine on paper. Like on the outside, it looks so fine, but deep inside, it's really, really draining you. Let's say you're building something, like a new business, a new project, or a skill that you want to have. And even on the hard days, you still show up for it. Even kanina when I'm debating on am I gonna film or not? I know that this is what aligned in this current season in my life, so I decided to film. So since that is aligned with the things that I wanna do right now, I just did. And pwede rin kasing you're in a season or you're in a place where it kind of feels uncertain, but something in you feels settled, like may peace ka in this season of your life. Even though it's chaotic or even though it feels very uncertain, you just know that you are meant to go through this season. Like the season is aligned with where you believe life is taking you. Or another thing is, maybe you're also doing a work that exhausts you physically, pero at the end of the day, you feel fulfilled doing it, na kahit nakakapagod yung trabaho na yun, like physically nakakapagod, pag nakapagpahinga ka na, pag naka-recover ka na, you feel like, I still love what I'm doing. I really love what I'm doing. And kahit na nakakapagod, you don't see yourself doing other things anyway, because you know that what you're doing right now, the job you have right now, or the business that you are building right now is aligned with the person that you want to become or the goals that you have in life. Kasi in reality, wala naman madaling trabaho eh. I don't think there's really a super easy job, but merong aligned na life or merong aligned na trabaho. Like with the business I've built, I always don't feel like I'm working. Siguro pag busy na sale days, Prime Day, Black Friday, it feels chaotic pag ganun. Pero at the end of it, pag natapos sa season na yun, holiday season and all that, I just don't really feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm enjoying the things that I'm doing right now. I'm enjoying working behind the scenes with these content creators and influencers that I'm working with. Minsan feeling ko talaga naglalaro lang ako eh. Siguro kasi nga, dahil it feels aligned. Like what I'm doing right now, it feels aligned. And even though there are really so many times where it doesn't make sense to me because I work with influencers and content creators in the fashion, beauty, lifestyle niche, walang travel. And even though hindi naman ako into fashion, hindi naman ako into beauty, not really into like those kind of stuff. So sometimes it doesn't make sense to me why I end up working with these people, why I end up setting up an agency to help these people behind the scenes. But I know that it's aligned with my life. I love helping people behind the scenes. Kaya medyo hesitant ako to show up in this sense kasi sanay lang ako on the behind the scenes. But even me filming, it doesn't really make sense to me kasi I like being in the behind the scenes. But then ngayon, I also enjoy filming or talking to the camera about my life experiences. And when something is just aligned, when something is really aligned, it doesn't have to make sense to anyone, and sometimes it will really not make sense to you, but alam mo deep inside you that this is what you know that you should be doing right now. Even when you can fully explain it, you still want to pursue it. For me, that's how I know when something's aligned. Although I want to be clear that alignment isn't really just doing something. It's not about, okay, filming or working with these clients, or it's not really about doing all the time. Sometimes it's also about letting go or closing a chapter of your life just because that also feels aligned in that season. And honestly, I think that's one of those things that most people get wrong about alignment, na feeling la, okay, nahanap na nila to. They think it's gonna be permanent. Like once you find that the thing that feels right, you think it's gonna be permanent, but nope, that's not how it works. I wish that's how it works. But I guess that's also why no one will ever really have their life figured out. And that's why I really like the idea of figuring out life. Kasi in my life, at least, like in my early 20s, I opened a small cafe, restaurant, and I genuinely loved it at that time. My friends and family know how much I love baking, how much I really enjoy it. Kahit sobrang nakakapagod, sobrang na-enjoy ko pa rin yung ginagawa ko. Mag-mix ng ingredients, mag-bake, mag-ano, and then pag pinatikim mo, like, sobrang happy ka na, na pag positive yung feedback or pag may gusto ka pang i-improve, ganun. It was really something I enjoyed doing. It was not something I was forced into. It was something that I really wanted. But almost a year after starting that cafe, we also had to close it. Honestly, that time, I feel like that also kind of ended my baking and cooking season. Although, alam ko after that, nagbe-bake and nagluluto pa rin ako for the family eh. Pero not in the sense of pangbenta. But interestingly, something opened up after that, which is the digital world. I started entering the digital world 6 to 9 months after closing that cafe. And now looking back, I feel like it's a path that I wouldn't have discovered or I wouldn't find if I stayed in the food business or food industry. And then, na-timing pa na when I was thriving, when I was starting to thrive in the digital space, magpa-pandemic din. So yun, even nung pandemic, I was able to survive and also thrive. Kasi nga, I was working online. I was working from home. Eh, bawal lumabas at that time. And another thing is, I also left my hometown in 2021. And it was a very spontaneous decision to move to Camiguin. In case you don't know my story about that yet, I was just traveling around the Philippines. I was planning to stay in Siargao for like a month, but I had to pivot within a week of staying kasi maulan that time and the internet was really crappy. Wala pang Starlink nun, and honestly, staying there didn't really feel aligned in that sense na ang dami kong kailangan gawin sa work that time kasi pa-holiday season na din eh. So, I need to pivot. I flew to Cebu and then I flew to Camiguin. And I can't remember if second or third morning ko yun sa Camiguin when I was just walking outside. I was just doing my morning walk and it felt like the island was calling me. It really felt like home. It suddenly felt like home more than the hometown I left or the home that I left back in Bataan. So when I got that feeling, that very weird feeling, I decided na, okay, let's try to look for an apartment, let's buy a second-hand motorcycle so I can learn how to drive. And that's how I decided to live in Camiguin. In that season, it actually just felt aligned. Well, I lived there for like more than 3 years, although I'm still flying in and out of the island because I still travel. Although ngayon, parang more than 1 year na ako hindi nakastay ng sobrang tagal sa Camiguin just because I'm in a different season right now, so I'm out here traveling. Although I'm still paying for my studio apartment there kasi I know I'm gonna come back someday. So it doesn't make sense to people why I'm still paying my rent there kahit na hindi ko naman ginagamit. But it makes sense to me. It still feels aligned. I know I'm gonna come back. So yeah, for me, that's what alignment looks like in real life. It's not that you're escaping something bad. Sometimes it can also mean that you have to live something genuinely good just because it's already done what it's supposed to do for you. And kung minsan, litong-lito na din yung mga tao sa buhay mo, okay lang yan, hayaan mo sila. It doesn't really have to make sense to them. As long as you know that the things that you are doing are aligned to the person you are becoming, then you're all good. That's what choosing yourself actually looks like in real life. But one thing to know is choosing what's aligned with you, it's always gonna cost you something. Always. It can be a relationship, whether it's a romantic type of relationship, friendship, or family. Just because that person doesn't understand why you're changing direction. Maybe they need you to stay the same because it keeps them comfortable, it keeps you comfortable. But the thing is, part of growing is changing eh. If someone doesn't like you changing, it also feels like they don't want you growing as well. So it can be a relationship, but it can also be security sometimes. Like letting go of something that looks stable, something that looks good on paper, but something in you knows that it's time to move. It's time to change direction. And most of the time, the cost is your identity. At least for me, that's what really the cost is for me. A lot of times. Like you've been that person who has always done this thing for so long. So letting that go feels like you're losing a part of yourself. Like kunyari sa akin, pwede naman akong mag-stick na lang to baking or cooking because that's what my family and friends know that I love. Kasi yun na nga yung ginagawa ko for the longest time. So honestly, going through that shift of changing from that baker or that passionate baker identity to someone who's building a business online, working with content creators, influencers in the fashion, beauty industry, it felt like I was letting go of that baker identity who I also loved, who I also enjoyed, but I'm also enjoying this version of me, this entrepreneur version of me. So a lot of times sa akin talaga, yung cost nun is really changing identity. Even filming these videos, I like my very private and closed life. I used to just have private Facebook, private Instagram, but now I am kind of like letting that identity of me who doesn't like showing up because she prefers to be private. I'm letting that identity of me who's scared of showing up to embrace this new identity of showing up more, sharing more of my unfiltered thoughts online, which is kind of scary. And yeah, none of that is really easy and I'm not going to pretend it is. But here's what I know. Every time I chose alignment, over comfort, over expectations, over what made sense to the people around me or even to myself, I've never looked back and wished I hadn't. So if you're waiting for the decision to make sense to everyone around you before you make it, I want to gently tell you that it might not come. Kasi the people around you are seeing your life from the outside, like yung labas lang. But they don't feel what you feel. They don't know what you only know about yourself. Hindi naman sila yung nakakaramdam nung alignment or yung nudges ng universe na yun eh. And a lot of times nga, it's really not gonna make sense to you, but you know it's aligned so you choose to do it anyway. If it doesn't need to make sense to you, it also doesn't have to make sense to everyone else before you actually do it. If you feel that's aligned, if you know that it's aligned, that's enough. I'll see you in the next one.
If something about today felt like a conversation you've been waiting to have, stick around. Because that's exactly what this show is here for. Figuring out life together with me, one honest conversation at a time. If you'd like to stay updated on all my podcast episodes, you can subscribe to this channel if you're watching this on YouTube, or you can give this show a follow on Spotify. I'd also love to hear what you think about the show. Send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram at Figuring Out Life PH. Let's continue to figure out life together, and I'll see you on the next one.